Hi there, I'm Sipka. This is the Apatros Review. Now in this episode we take a look at Bloodfist 6 Ground Zero, a direct-to-video film from America, and I'll do Bloodfist 7 and 8 later on this in the coming weeks. But for this one we do Bloodfist 6. Now this film is known under all sorts of alternate titles. Assault at Ground Zero, Ground Zero, Ground Zero Bloodfist 6. In Japan it's known as Terrorist Weapon and Devil's Ultimate Weapon. And in Germany it's known as Zero Control. It was directed by Rick Jacobson, and it was made in 1994. It was actually released firstly in Germany on video on 27th of January 1995, then US on the 31st of January, and then Japan on 23rd of August 1995. It was directed by Rick Jacobson and written by Rob Kirchner and Brendan Broderick. It stars Donald Dragon Wilson, Jonathan Fuller, Katya Sassoon, Robin Curtis, and Steve Garvey. Now the DVD in Australia was released as a double feature with Bloodfist 5 on it from Flashback Entertainment. Now, this company making a whole bunch of cheap DVDs during the 2000s and pretty much disappeared around the mid-2010s. Now, the sixth installment of the long-running 1990s direct-to-video B-grade action franchise stars champion kickboxer and series star Don Dragon Wilson in his usual hero mode as former US Special Forces Commander Nick Corrigan, who was banished from a specialist role for refusing to abandon his men in a covert ops mission, the only position open to him being a simple courier. His status being so low that his radio dispatcher routinely calls him an idiot over radio. One day, Corrigan is sent on an errand to deliver a top-secret intel package to a local US Air Force nuclear missile base to its commanding officer. His only criteria is to verify the delivery by recipient signature. You know, whenever you receive a package to your house, and the courier needs to sign for it to prove delivery. Something that has been scaled back a fair bit these days due to the coronavirus pandemic. As soon as he arrives, Corrigan notices something is amiss due to the strange behavior of the staff. Little does he know that a heavily armed and well-equipped platoon of Islamic terrorists have taken over the base and now have almost full control of the base's complement of nuclear ICBM weaponry. All that is needed for the terrorists to launch the greatest terrorist attack in history by firing nuke in New York is to decipher the launch code using their designated hackers' abilities and getting their dirty hands on the two launch keys needed to fire the missiles. They are well on their way to uncovering the launch code and have already have one of the keys, but the base's commanding officer, who is the last surviving member of the base, before he's killed by the terrorists, manages to secretly pass his key to Corrigan without knowing about it, who is now trapped in the base and on the run from the terrorists, the only survival tools he has being his radio handset and his K-bar knife, while an incompetent sleazy general, Upside, tries to interfere by launching airstrike onto the base, the chances of that succeeding being questionable at best. The nuclear terrorism thing that ran through Bloodfist 4 died trying and Bloodfist 5 human target comes to a head in the spectacularly tacky direct-to-video sequel, which is pretty much a tie-in with Died Trying as the worst of the Bloodfist films. When you pare the plot down to brass tacks, you'll find nothing but a very close to the bottom of the barrel Die Hard clone, which they made a whole heap of during the 90s. With the protagonists going through the motions, engaging dispatching terrorists, which in this film are Islamic extremists, offer the motivations that initially believed to be just after a ransom demand. The subtle revelation halfway through the film that the terrorist leader really does plan on using nukes at his disposal, a slight change in the Die Hard formula. Unlike most copies of the Bruce Willis action classic, there is an inside agent working for the terrorist station at the base, being in the form of the base commander's girlfriend, played by Katya Sassoon, who made the final film appearance here, also being the last time a viewer ever gets a chance to see her naked. Now, as far as films about terrorism go, this one, while still a robustly bad movie, does have a certain chill to it, as the events of September 11, 2001, which happened like 6 years after this film came out, showed the world what Islamic extremism is capable of, short of having any nuclear devices at disposal, thus showing the antics of these terrorists trying their damnedest and very nearly succeeding, being far more relevant and thus a good deal scarier to the audience they would have had at the time of the film's review release back in 1994. Besides the thematic content within, Bloodfist 6 Ground Zero is a very poor film. The action scenes are flatly staged, and one is most unusual for a film in this particular franchise. There is very little hand-to-hand combat scene here, nearly all of the fights being at the firing guns at each other variety. There are a couple of fisticuffs, but mostly it's gunplay. The shootouts are shot without any focus on plausibility. Seeing in the cramped corridors and tight spaces would mean that the combatants would have shot themselves dead within the first couple of shootouts, or taken out by ricocheting bullets in the case they miss. Although there is a halfway imaginative sequence with Kat Sassoon hunting Wilson throughout the corridors, the lights off wearing night vision goggles. Not only that, but the Strategic Air Command General is found to be an absolute idiot. At the time of the film's production, this would have been played for mostly humorous take on the die-hard formula of the authoritarian figure whose tactics in trying to suppress the terrorist plans only wind up helping them. But here the general is found to be a complete asshole. He completely dismisses out of hand his female subordinates' concerns about the outdated security debates, which she's proven right over, and treats her badly, even going so far as to placing a male sex doll in her quarters, which would in today's world have the general being demoted from his position of what is clearly a case of sexual harassment. And don't get me started on the way Wilson stops missiles launch by simply shooting the shit out of the control panel to disable it. How implausible is that? As for the acting, most of the cast are given very little material to work with outside the basics of the formula for this type of film. As a franchise hero, Donald Draken Wilson is decent enough. Although, as I've already mentioned, he isn't given much in the way of character motivation, but he does his best. The rest of the cast fares somewhat more unevenly. Jonathan Fuller, a decent actor who ended up doing a lot of work in 99's direct-to-video B movies in the villain role, carries the role of the terrorist leader Fawkes with a fair bit of scenery chewing, and some choice intensity as to what the role usually demands for. And at least he does well, although not quite in the same league as Alan Rickman in his iconic role as die-hard villain for Hans Gruber. Although Fawkes remains a memorable villain in the Bloodfist franchise so far. The rest of the cast don't even quite make it there, but in their defense they perform reasonably well with the little material they're given. It's only that the script is very poorly written, and the story is nothing to write home to your family about. So at the end of the day, we have here a bad film that is at the bottom of the Bloodfist barrel. Although despite that status, it's not actually terrible, and bad movie masochists will probably enjoy this one for the bad movie fix. I mean, it's got plenty of action, a little bit of humor, lots of over-the-top acting, but and Jonathan Fuller actually pretty much does over-the-top pretty well here. And yeah, so pretty much I'll give this a D 2 out of 10. It's a robustly bad movie. Not terrible, just bad. If you're a bad movie masochist, this will definitely be up your alley. Now, for gore and nudity, there's no gore outside of Stan 99's bullet squibs, but a soldier's neck gets twisted around 180 degrees, so he gets a good view of his ass. Well, the nudity comes from two sources. Katya Sassoon, whose breasts are visible during her introductory scene, and given this was her final film appearance, and last time she was going to be seen naked, and a random nude centerfold, full frontal both model's head being visible from an adult magazine picked up by one of the soldiers. Now for the DVD. This is released onto DVD in Australia by Flashback Entertainment in a double feature with Bloodfist 5 Human Target. As the entire 8-film series are packaged in double features, so it'll be easier for collectors to complete the collections. Although it was actually originally released in singles by Jigsaw Entertainment. Despite the consistently average quality of the film's prints, the print looks like a VHS rip, the sound is VHS level stereo, and there are no supplemental features or subtitles. So that's it for Bloodfist 6 Round 0. Pretty much gets a D of 2 out of 10. It's bad. Not terrible, just bad. I'll do Bloodfist 7 and 8 in the coming weeks, so keep an eye out for that. Now I do not do requests, but if you have any questions about DVDs, I'll be happy to answer. Just hit me a comment in the comment section and I'll see to it. Also, if you want to know if a particular film is in my collection, just hit me up as well. Hope you guys are staying safe, take it easy, and that's it for this review.